Hi, everyone. Welcome to Primary Questions. When it comes to hot campaign topics, literally, global warming is really near the top of the list. You'd be hard-pressed to find many people who think there's no truth to the evidence behind global warming, especially after Al Gore's movie An Inconvenient Truth. But there's still some folks that think the risks of global warming are being overhyped or overblown. So we asked the leading presidential candidates what they thought about global warming and the dangers, and here's what they had to say. Do you think in any way the risks of climate change are being overhyped?
I don't think it's being overhyped. I think it's being underhyped. I'd make polluters pay, people who below the cap are still putting out carbon dioxide. And that money from making the polluters pay for a permit to do that should be invested in clean, renewable sources of energy, wind, solar, cellulose-based biofuels. We have to clean up our act. As we start cleaning up our act, I think we're in a place to be able to go to China, to India, to the other countries that need to be part of this solution and say, we're developing the technology, we're willing to make this technology available to you, but we're going to have to solve this problem together.
There are a lot of unanswered questions. We don't know to what extent this is a cyclical thing that we may or may not be able to affect very much. The extremists, I think, are the ones who want us to do drastic things to our economy before we have more answers as to how much good we can do and whether or not people in the other parts of the world are going to contribute. I can't give you a list of items that I would specifically address. I think that research and development has got to be at the top of the list.
I don't think that it's overhyped. I think that we have time, but we have to start acting now. I would put a heavy emphasis on energy efficiency. We can drastically lower our use of electricity, thereby drastically lowering our use of coal-powered electricity. We need to have higher gas mileage, and I have advocated 40 miles per gallon by 2020, and I believe that's achievable. But we're going to have to help Detroit do it. I don't want to sacrifice jobs. I don't want the American auto industry to go out of business, so I'm willing to give significant help as they make this transition. I want to lead the world in a post-Kyoto agreement that I hope we can get resolved and signed by 2010 that will include China and India.
I don't know. I mean, the honest answer for me scientifically is I don't know. I think that Republicans have made a big mistake by not being more on the forefront of conservation. I consider myself a conservationist. I think we ought to have some cap and trade. It worked with acid rain. I think it could work with CO2 emissions. I think we ought to be out there talking about ways to reduce energy consumption and waste. And we ought to declare that we will be oil-free of energy consumption in this country within a decade. Bold as that is, frankly, it's a matter of national security to get to the point where we're not dependent upon oil coming from countries who, frankly, aren't very friendly to us.
Do you think the risks of climate change are overblown?
No. I think they're serious. We have to take significant steps now to deal with it. So I've put forward a very substantial proposal to get 80% reductions in greenhouse gases by 2050. That is going to require that we change how power plants operate. That's going to require that we increase fuel efficiency standards, that we develop clean and renewable sources like solar and wind and biodiesel. And we're going to have to charge for pollution and create a market for pollution abatement and create green technologies that can, over the long term, generate jobs and entrepreneurial opportunities all throughout the economy.
I think the risks of climate change are real, and that you're seeing climate change. I think human activity is contributing to it. I would develop in this country sources of energy which will allow us to be free of foreign oil, but sources also that don't emit CO2, and that's nuclear power, clean burning coal, all of our renewable resources, and so forth. I also want to see much greater efficiency in our autos, in our homes, in our businesses. That'll get us energy independent. I don't want to have America unilaterally think it's going to somehow stop global warming. They don't call it America warming. They call it global warming. And that means China, which is the biggest CO2 emitter in the world, as well as other nations like Indonesia and Brazil, are going to have to be part of a global effort. So Kyoto was wrong because it left major polluting nations out.
No. I think, if anything, they're underblown. Three things I would do is I would have fuel efficiency in all vehicles, 50 miles per gallon. The second, I would say, all electricity in this country, 30% by the year 2020 has to come from renewable energy, solar, wind, biomass. And the third would be, I would put a mandate that says that we are going to have a reduction of greenhouse gas emissions by 80% by the year 2040. Mandates, fines to polluters, to power plants.
There is global warming. Human beings are contributing to it. And I think the best answer to it is energy independence. We've got more coal reserves in the United States than they have oil reserves in Saudi Arabia. If we find a way to deal with it and use it so it doesn't hurt the environment, we're going to find ourselves not contributing to global warming and also being more energy independent. I think we have to take another look at nuclear power. It has to be done very carefully, but we haven't lost a life to nuclear power yet. We have wind, solar, hydroelectric, hybrid vehicles. All these things need to be increased, and an appropriate emphasis on conservation. You can't do it with any one of these things. You can't just do conservation, otherwise you're not going to have growth.
I've been to Greenland, I've been to the South Pole, I've been to the Arctic. I know it's real. And I believe that we've got to go back to nuclear power. We've got to do alternate energy. We've got to have a cap and trade proposal, which Joe Lieberman and I have proposed. We need to do green technologies. Let me just put it this way to you. Suppose that I'm wrong and there's no such thing as climate change and we adopt green technologies, then we've just left our kids a better world. Suppose I am right and we do nothing. Then what kind of a planet have we handed to our children? I've been involved in this effort for many years, and we've got to act, and unfortunately, we have not acted either as the federal government or the Congress.
Why has it taken so long, Senator?
Special interests. It's a special interest. It's the utility companies and the petroleum companies and the other special interests. They're the ones that have blocked progress in the Congress of the United States and in the administration. That's a little straight talk.